What is your story of building your own business? You were doing so well in your corporate life and you've given 20 years. What made you take that one decision to start your own business?
I was in a very happy space when I took that decision, Manmeet. For me, it was like I had scaled a mountain, which was difficult when I ventured into it. When I started, fallen down, bruised myself, then with the help and support of people.
So, the name of your organization, which you've mentioned in the podcast as we started, is Tatvamasi. So, what's the story of that name?
So it's three words. Try and say it with me. It is Tat
Tat
Tvam
Tvam
Asi.
Asi.
Tat Tvam Asi. You are that. It is the clarion call of Lord Ayappa. It is said that this is a God who is not waiting for the devotees to come and see him. He is waiting to see himself.
Oh.
They have to convert themselves as the Lord. So you take the 41-day fast, food, water, you wear very simple clothes, you wear black. So therefore the Lord is waiting in anticipation to see versions of him.
Oh, that's so lovely. I'm learning something new today.
Yes.
Welcome to yet another episode of the 1% Coaches podcast. The goal of this podcast is to help you understand who are the coaches who are making an impact, not just followers and views, but actually delivering a message to the society. At the same time, they have a message to share with the world. And today's guest has been changing lives and has been making an impact. What does a business owner or a founder need? They need a 360-degree advice. They need advice on two things: strategy and sales. And she is someone who's focusing on both. If you have your business strategy and if you have your numbers logged in, you're taken care of. And I would like to welcome Sridevi to the podcast today. Hi, Sridevi. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, doing really well. Thank you, Manmeet.
Thank you so much for taking our time today. Before we begin, I would just like to start by saying that when you put in your heart, your soul into business, when you start your own, it is not just the number of years you're into your business. Sridevi here is someone who spent about 20 years into corporates, not just taking care of one dimension, but different categories and different industries that she's served in. So, what she's built in the last 5 years is actually condensed knowledge of the last 20 years. And today, through this podcast, I want to bridge the gap of the last 20 years of what is built into how she's been doing it for the last 5 years. And all the conversations that happen today are going to be raw, natural, and to the core of the way we've built this podcast. Own your story unapologetically. Thank you so much once again for taking our time today.
Look forward to this conversation, Manmeet.
Absolutely. I'll begin with this one question that I usually ask all my guests. What is your story of building your own business? You were doing so well in your corporate life and you've given 20 years, which means that, it's a significant time of your life. What made you take that one decision to start your own business?
I was in a very happy space when I took that decision, Manmeet. For me, it was like I had scaled a mountain, which was difficult when I ventured into it. When I started, there were some really rough patches. I had fallen down, bruised myself. Then, with the help and support of people, gone back on that conquest. So there are three kinds of people when it comes to dealing with adversity. They say there are quitters, campers, and climbers. And I could safely say now, when I look back on my story, that I was one of those climbers. And then there comes a point when you have climbed and you're standing there and you're looking at the complete view. Now we can go into debate on, was that the zenith? Couldn't you have done more? Well, for me at that point in time, it seemed like I was in a very happy space. And that was my climb moment. And then from there, I wanted to go to another space altogether. So what you just mentioned about 20 years of corporate world and then starting a business all over again, it's sometimes not even that. Because when they say when you have to start all over again, you're not starting from scratch, you're starting from experience.
Absolutely, I love that. You're not starting from scratch, you're starting from experience. 100%.
So that is my story. I will not even say that has been my story, because I'm living it right now. So it was 20 years of doing this, and then 5 years it's been now of doing something which looks a little different to the world, but it is not very different for me, Manmeet. I'm the
Right.
same person who's getting up every morning, getting started for work. Well, earlier probably there were goals, um, objectives which belong to another entity,
You
and
were
then
answerable to someone in some shape or form.
exactly.
Yeah.
But today you have your own goals, you have your own objectives, you have your own passion, you want to build your own story, like you said, own your story unapologetically. Um, and that gives you a lot more energy
Yeah.
than what it was earlier. So that's where I am right now.
Absolutely. You know, one thing that I picked up from your conversation when you started, and you briefly touched upon it, you said that you had a rough patch and, things were not working out, and that is when you pivoted. If you're comfortable sharing when that transition happened from quitting your job and moving into your business, what was that rough patch that caused you to take this decision? If you're comfortable sharing about that.
Yeah. I wish I could tell you, I wish I could even count the number of quit moments, because one
Yeah.
can't. There was a point, I still remember one particular job where I wanted to quit it every day for the whole year.
Yeah.
Like every evening, I have sat down writing down my resignation letter. And yet I
Oh.
didn't. And came back the next day morning. I'm not proud of it.
Hmm.
You know, I wish I had sought help. I wish I had spoken to somebody about it. I wish I really could go back and reflect on what was causing that pain, because that pain was transferring on so many other relationships that I was playing at that point in time. I was a young mother, I had a small child, and I am conscious today that maybe I was transferring that pain onto my child. Um, I was, I wouldn't say newly married, but young into my marriage, young into so many other relationships. I'm also sure that my state of mind at that point in time had an impact on the team that I was managing.
Absolutely. It always does.
Yes. And
Yeah.
those were those rough moments. Then there came a point in 2012. That was a turning point of my life where, while I thought at that point in time that it was by accident, I now know, because I have this deep faith and trust in the universe, and I absolutely love the magic that it brings on to my life every day, that it was by design. There was a kind colleague who kind of forced me to go in for a Louise Hay workshop. Uh, and Louise is the author of the book You Can Heal Your Life.
Yes.
And I went into that workshop, and for the first time, I came into, I would say, I was introduced to this concept called your thoughts create your reality.
Absolutely.
Until then, it was all about the outside world for me.
Yeah. Now you start looking inward.
No, no, it didn't happen immediately.
Yeah, of
Okay,
course.
it took some time, because initially your mental conditioning is such that you don't want to believe in concepts like this.
Hmm.
When you're a science student, you're looking for logic. You're a salesperson, you're looking for the process. You're looking for proof of concept. And when none of that is available to you, and here is someone who's telling you just trust the process of life, then you're also questioning, saying, then where is the process? What is the process? Where is it written? But then something very beautiful about that entire concept is that it gives you a set of practices.
Right.
Now, again, you got to go into it with faith. I went into it with, like I said, disbelief, hope, and I would say faith came in after a couple of years. But by then, the change that I saw in myself, and then the proof of concept that when things inside you change is when the outside world changes, really began to play out in front of me. In the way that my people I was working with were responding to me, in the way my children were responding to me, in the way my relationship was blossoming, and all my health. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
How can I even forget that? My health took a 360-degree turn, and I'm not even exaggerating. 360-degree turn. Uh, I was someone who never took up any sporting activity, but here I was all of a sudden wanting to look after myself, learning up about different kinds of diets, understanding what exercise pattern really suits myself. And that's when that's when I would say I shattered a glass ceiling for myself.
Absolutely.
Okay, and that's when the story changed. And I spent another 8 more years in the corporate world, even after that, reaping the benefits of this,
Correct.
enjoying the harvest. And that's what I mentioned as the climb. And
Right.
then when you climb, you've trained your body to breathe well, you've trained your body to take in the nutrients, and then the rest of the climb becomes so much more beautiful. You're enjoying it, and there comes a time when your conscience is asking you, now, how do you want to pay this forward? I know
Hmm.
when I say it in this manner, it really sounds very saintly, and like I'm a big philanthropist. Well, whatever it is going to sound like, it was that moment of reckoning for me, and that's when I decided to make a shift and start my own organization, Tattvam Asi, which
Absolutely.
means you are that. You are you are the God that you're seeking, and you're exactly what you are.
Absolutely. And I'll come to, I have loved the name while, I was reading about you. And I would like to come to that. I have a couple of questions, but I'll go step by step in your journey as you've been talking. First, like to highlight that I love the analogy of how you mentioned that, it's like a climb and you prepare for that. You can't just climb today, I plan I'm going to climb tomorrow. You can't do that. You'll probably fail. You need exercise, you need that walk, you have to prepare for that climb. And the way you've positioned it, I love that analogy. Having said that, I'll take you one step back to your story where you mentioned that every day you wanted to resign yet you didn't. What was stopping you to resign? Why did you show up the next day even though you wanted to resign every single day?
You want the blunt truth?
Yes,
The money.
of course. Yeah.
The other blunt truth, you have a family who is dependent on you.
Right.
You know that you have children who've got a future that will unfold basis what you put in today.
Right.
You know that you have parents who are looking up to you, um, and I'm trying to phrase this a little better, for whom you are now that object of pride.
Absolutely.
So it is not only about physical dependencies, it's also about a lot of emotional dependencies
Yeah.
that you are playing forward for.
Right. So your life and your life decisions are linked, especially in India, I would say, are linked to a lot of people that,
Yes,
are with you on
yes.
your life journey. So it impacts them directly. Right. I would also like to highlight significant portion of what you said, that you were new into marriage and then came motherhood. And I can ask this question is because, coming from one female to another and other people that I've spoken to, do you think that today, the scenario is changing, but do you think marriage and then motherhood is something that, you know I'm trying to look for the right word
Hmm.
so that it lands better, that maybe causes a little bit of shift in your journey in your career, and that overwhelms women a little bit who's trying to build. So how was that for you?
The simple answer is yes.
Hmm.
The generation that I came from, the demands on the women were a lot more.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think many of us, you and me, are chipping away, and we are making the world an easier place for the woman,
Correct, I would agree.
is what I'd like to believe,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I
In our
think we
own
are
way,
yeah,
yeah.
I think we are shifting that way
Yeah, we're
100%.
shifting the narrative. Um, there are a lot of men I meet today through my coaching assignments, even otherwise, when I'm talking with them, who really don't see this as a woman's work.
Absolutely.
Everyone
Yeah.
is now ready to contribute,
Contribute.
collaborate, understand each other's strengths, play on it. Marriage, the way I see it today, is in fact becoming a much stronger institution,
Yeah.
because I'm seeing people walking into it with complete clarity and understanding.
Yes.
Marriage was not that at the times when I was getting married. Though I
Right.
married a person of my choice, I was completely, happy to get into that relationship. Despite that, yes, there was a lot of societal conditioning that existed at my point in time. Manmeet, I was extremely lucky to have a family, and I call it lucky today. While today it is, I would say it must be a given and not a matter of luck. But I was very lucky to have a mother in law who was completely supportive of me going to work. Supportive not from just from a mental state, from a physical state. Like she ran my entire household while I went to work. My parents, who moved in with me when I had my second child,
Right.
because they wanted they wanted to support me with my career. um, so have I had a dent because of that? I would touch my conscience and say no.
Hmm.
Okay, because also I have never hesitated from asking for help.
There it is. That is what a
Yes.
lot of people miss. There are so many people that I've spoken to. A lot of times, I loved two things. Before you begin your story, there are two things I loved. One is you said that I'm lucky, acknowledging the fact that you're blessed. There is divine power that is supporting you, and the right people are coming in your life is something that truly helps a person to move forward. And second is where you said that you have to ask for it, because
Yes.
every time whatever you want in life you have to voice it, you have to put your opinion on it. So many people that I meet, or girls my age, when I speak to them, there are difficult times that they are facing, but then they keep shut about it. They would not even speak to their spouse about it. So when you don't voice it, when you don't share it, when you don't ask for it, how would it be a healthy relationship? So I think, sorry to cut you in between, but
No, no, that's
I
fine.
was like, this is it. This is what I feel, that you have to voice it, you have to ask it. Yeah.
Manmeet, the highlight of my life, which I hold close to my heart even today, is my back to school moment that happened after I had my second daughter.
Right.
So she was about 3 to 4 months old when I remember one night I was talking to my husband, and I told him that one of the regrets that I have in life is I never went to a premier MBA institute. I was in MBA, but not from the premier MBA institute. And then he said, "Okay, if given a chance, would you want to go back now? Would you want to study?" And then I said, "Are we even crazy for having this discussion? Because here, I had an infant in hand and I had a very good job, and then I had responsibilities at home." And then he said, "No, let's push for that too. If we could come so far, then why are we going to let that one dream, not cherished?" And then I applied to IIM Kozhikode, and we had EMAT those days. I got in through the executive postgraduate program, and I went on to study for about 2.5 years. And the studies, of course, for everybody else, it is remote. It seems remote. But the fact is, you had to put in those hours because the rigor
Absolutely.
was the same as you were doing a normal course. So here I was in a sales job, rushing through the door at 7:30 in the morning, two kids packed, really one child bundled and deposited in my mom's place. And then you are having your breakfast on the way and whatever, and then you're coming back home by 6 o'clock. And our remote classes, I can't even call them online because in those days it was called remote classes, and those
Yeah.
remote classes would start about 7 o'clock and would go on till about 9:45. So it was very taxing, and it is not possible for a person to do it alone. So I will
Yeah.
never sit here and say I did this all alone. I would say
Absolutely.
my family invested in my education, my family invested in my career. Also, because, like you said, I felt no shame in asking for help. I
Absolutely.
felt no shame in standing up and saying, "Hey, this is my life and I've got a dream. Can you all please chip into my dream?"
Right.
Did it go as smoothly as I'm making it sound? No.
100%. I'm sure it wouldn't
Not
have
at
been.
all. There were many days when there was noise behind the doors, right? Um, but then we invested in each other's dreams,
Right.
and it's a two-way street. It's never a one-way street. So you
100%.
also have to look after the emotions and the sentiments of those who are willing to chip into your career. If you can do that, then it's not very difficult.
Right. I'm very curious here as you talk, and I wanted to understand, might, sound a little off record, but I would want to understand. I
Yeah.
love the way, you do the wordplay. or the
Okay.
analogies, for example, being the climber of your journey, or the way you said packed and deposited into your mother's house. I love the way you
Yeah.
position it. So does that come naturally to you, or is it the years of learning and experience from the places that you've been and the people that you've met? I love that the way it is being communicated. So how does that come to you?
Funny you asked this question. I think it's been my strength.
Yeah.
When I was managing a team, managing teams for many years, I was known for this, that I would tell my teams a story in the morning huddle. Like, I would always come up with one story to tell them, and there were so many days that I ran out of stories and I made my own stories. I think it comes from the fact that I'm an only child and
Okay.
I grew up with books. And you have this pattern when you're reading books, like after some time, you just shut the page and then you're dreaming about the whole scenario. And I
Right.
think that's what reading does to you than watching um, screens, because then you're not activating that part of your brain which can visualize. Which
Right.
is also why I think, now that you asked me this question, Manmeet, I never thought about it. I think this is also one of the reasons I love the Louise Hay program,
Right.
because she is all about visualizing.
Right.
She's all about imagine what a perfect day in your life is going to look like and go for it. No filters, just allow it to happen to you.
Right.
And that's what I do as a profession now.
Right. I'd love to ask you, and here I probably might be putting you on the spot, but
That's all right.
can you, today tell us one of the stories like you would do in the team huddles of what you just mentioned, that, a story about what does a perfect day in the life look like? Like one of the stories, if you could share with us.
Uh, Maybe I have to re-clarify that question. So, do you want me to tell you something where I have visualized it and
No,
how
no,
a
I mean to
perfect?
say that, it's an open ended question. You
Okay.
can phrase it the way you would want. I would love to know, how do you come up with stories? How do you narrate them? And if you need
Okay.
a topic, like what does the story need to be about? Maybe the story can be about a perfect day in the life, what you just mentioned.
Yes.
So I would love to, see you narrating one of the stories and be an audience in awe about it.
Oh, beautiful. So I have this one story that I'm telling myself right now. Is that okay for me to narrate that? A
Yes,
perfect day?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a perfect day in my life looks like this, that I have this large farmhouse in Coimbatore. Don't ask me why. It's a story, right? And it's a beautifully done up house in Kerala architecture. It's got those teak wood pillars. I think it's coming from my ancestral house where I grew up for some time. Um, and I have this, uh, it is a day in my life. So I have leaders of the world who come live with me. It's an immersive experience where we are living, with the leader, talking about the strategies that they want to develop for their organization in a space where there is complete calm and peace, where they're cooking their own food. They're living a very simple life, but clean, hygienic surroundings. And then they stay like that with me for about a week with ideas that they gather within themselves. And then they go away and they implement it and they make the corporation stronger and better and make the whole world a better place because of the fact that I created the room for them to think for themselves.
Absolutely. I was about to
Yeah.
say that, the
Yeah.
one message that I take from the story is that you pause away from the chaos of your daily life, and then away from the WhatsApp messages, and then you reflect of what you need to do, because that is the time that business owners, founders, strategic leaders, that they don't get. Their job is to be able to think, but the reality is that that is what they don't get to do because of everything that they have to take care of. So as you were speaking, I think I was imagining, and if I would have closed my eyes, I would have smelled the food for
Yes.
once.
I'm
So
so
that's the
glad you
power of
said
your
that. Yeah.
that's the power of your voice and wordplay. So I loved how you do it. So thank you so much for doing that for us.
Thank you for indulging me, Manmeet. I can go on and turn this entire podcast into a storytelling session.
Probably we should do one more, and that should be called a
Yeah.
storytelling podcast.
Yes. No, I love telling stories. I love telling stories. In
Absolutely.
fact, it helps me even in my coaching
Yeah.
because sometimes when I find that the client is stuck, unable to articulate, because that's exactly what stuckedness does to you, right? When you don't even know where you want to go, I am able to listen to the client and convert it into an image in my head.
Right.
And then I play that image out to the client. Sometimes I tell them, hey, I'm seeing you in a boat in the middle of the sea. And then I'm seeing that you're not able to decide how you want to go ahead. And the client picks up, and it's magical how people pick it up from there. So I've had people saying, no, 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 wait, Shri, the boat is turning around. Or wait, I don't have I don't have a net on the boat. I want to fish. And then I stop there because then the client builds the story from there.
Right, right. And that's absolutely amazing
Yes.
because, when you give them a life situation, they get all entangled into the daily, problems of how to solve it.
Data is very transactional.
Yes, correct. And visual helps. That is why, people love Bollywood movies because visuals, music, that is what it helps people. And I think one more thing I've picked up from here is that I can call you Shri. So I'll call you Shri.
Of course you can.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Shri, I would, love to know that, all that knowledge that you gathered and as you were building your climb and, you were moving forward, what was that day one of your business looking like? Now that you've started your business, you've decided, I want to start my business. How did day one look like? What happened on day one?
I'm a sales strategist, and that sales strategist avatar of me was going ahead of me. I truly believe that for businesses to start, you must give the business an identity.
Hmm.
It is not enough that you have a personal identity or you don't, or you plan to build it. The fact is, you've got to give the business an identity. So I was very particular about the name. So my day one was all about what is going to be the name of my organization, what's going to be the tagline of the organization, what's the difference I really want to. I take that back. I don't think I ever thought what's the difference I'm going to make to this world. I don't think about it even now. What I always think is, what value am I going to add to this?
Correct.
Because Manmeet, we have all gotten to the train on different stations.
Yeah.
We're not the engine drivers, we're not the train.
Right.
We're all getting in and getting off somewhere. So, between me getting in and getting off, what changed in the journey?
Right.
So, for me, it was, what is my name? How do I give this an identity? Decisions like, do I want to take up my own space? What's the kind of business identity I want to give this? Like, for example, I started my organization as an OPC company,
Yeah.
one person company.
Correct.
Because at that point in time, I did not have partners to think with me. And I didn't even believe in adding a spouse or, a friend as just a partner because I wanted to start it as private limited. So I even sat down and told my chartered accountant, I don't want to start it as a private limited. Give me options.
Yeah.
So those are the things that I did those are the things I did on day one. For
Yeah.
me, it was as good as birthing my third child.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
There's another analogy.
Yes. See?
I absolutely
Yeah,
love it.
yeah.
So, the name of your organization, which you've mentioned in the podcast as we started, is Tatvamasi. And please, correct me if I'm
Yes.
mispronouncing it because I would want to be respectful towards it. And you mentioned that the meaning of that is you are that. So, I would want to know that how did you come up with such an, deep down name? Like, I'm sure it would have taken you, lots of thought provoking to be able to reach there. Or was it instant? Because that was always what you were thinking about. So, what's the story of that name? How did you come up with Tatvamasi?
So it's three words. Try and say it with me. It is Tat
Tat
Tvam
Tvam
Asi.
Asi.
Tat Tvam Asi. You are that.
Okay, got it.
Tat, you. Okay. The name, it didn't take me too long because it is the clarion call of Lord Ayappa.
Okay.
And it is said that this is a god who is not waiting for the devotees to come and see him. He is waiting to see himself.
Oh, okay.
When the devotees take the pilgrimage to Shabrimala, they have to convert themselves as the Lord.
Hmm.
So you take the 41-day fast, There is abstinence of anything which causes sensual pleasure, food, water, all of that. You wear very simple clothes, you wear black. So therefore, the Lord is waiting in anticipation to see versions of Him.
Oh, that's so lovely. I'm learning something new today.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was, how do I meet the person for what the person is,
Hmm.
and not for what the world wants the person to be?
Right.
For who the person is and who the person wants to be.
Right.
And that's the sense of coaching.
Correct.
So this name was a no-brainer for me.
Yeah.
And I come from a family where we've always had pilgrims going to Shabrimala. Most of our men folk have always taken the pilgrimage. My father did, my husband does. So the name, of course, the name instantly came to me. I was in one of the very powerful um, Kali temples in Kerala when I just said this is going to be the name of my organization. It was on Jan 1st, 2020. And then the next 15 days, I was giving it a business entity identity,
Right.
which is, speaking to chartered accountants, starting it as opening a bank account, starting it as an entity, looking for a space. That's what I did. So that's how it
Absolutely.
all started. I don't know if I answered your question, because
You did. You did.
the moment I speak about Tattvamasi, all fades. It's just a very different area for
Yeah,
me.
I think what I understood from the experience, and I use the word experience, what you just described is experiences leads to you to make decisions, and that's what happened in your journey.
Very true.
Yeah,
Very true.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
only rephrasing
Yeah.
that, for the audience to understand, for us to be on the same page, that this is the message that you're trying to deliver, and it's well received.
See, I resigned in October 2019.
Okay.
Um, and just as it happens in the corporate world, everywhere across the world, everyone thought I was going to competition.
Yeah,
Everybody thought, I've got a different job offer on hand.
yeah.
No one would believe that Sridevi, who until then had sizable teams, and then the luxury, and maybe we're a little spoilt with all the attention that we get, could ever get out on her own
Hmm. Yeah.
and do something. So this was not a challenge, or I'm not proud of having shown somebody their place or shown myself my place. No, no. It happened so beautifully for me, Manmeet, that even today it remains one of my best experiences. Like, I enjoyed myself through my exit period.
Right.
I did not know what I wanted to do, but I waited until I had handed over everything. December 24th was my last working day. It's only on Jan 1st I sat down and thought of a name.
Hmm. Right.
And here's the thing, Manmeet, I am not doing this as a hobby.
Right.
This brings home the bacon for me even today,
Absolutely.
as much as it did in the past. I
Absolutely.
walk the talk as a sales strategist.
Right.
It's not about how much money do I want to make. It is about, is this a money making profitable idea? This is a money making profitable idea for me, and I execute that idea every day.
Absolutely. I think, what you just mentioned, sometimes it is okay not to know what is going to happen next, because there's this phrase that, which floats around a lot, which says, expect the unexpected. And sometimes when you expect the unexpected, unexpected happens, and in the most beautiful manner. So sometimes it's okay not to know, because knowing everything sometimes puts you in a space where you don't want to be. So I think that's a beautiful experience that you've shared there. And also at the same time, where you said, that it still, brings you home, and puts food on the table. And I think that is very necessary, because two things happen here out of my experience and what I'm hearing. When you build a business which is just for the sake of helping people, then I'm sorry, it's not a business, it's charity.
And it's a hobby. Let's be, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It's a
absolutely.
hobby.
So,
Yeah.
more than hobby, I think I'd like to go with the word charity, is
Okay.
because you're not getting anything in return of that.
Correct.
Because
Yeah.
when you're living in this world, bills have to be paid. What does your bill size look like? That's on you. but bills
Yeah.
have to be paid,
Yeah.
food has to be put on the table, and things have to be done. So you have to understand that the skill that you possess today has to be rewarded with the medium that works in the world today, which is money. It's not being greedy, it's not being money minded, or all those words that are put in the world today. But a business means exchange, and that exchange has to be of the knowledge and the medium that is working in the world today. The medium is money. So I think I would, acknowledge the fact what you mentioned, that that's how it has to be. It has to be an exchange of money, for the knowledge that you're
Yes.
putting out.
For me, it is about knowing your worth
Right.
and getting what you're worthy of.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And I think this, this comes from a position, and you're able to say this is because of the one thing that you mentioned, that is walk the talk. And I
Yes.
think
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
successful people that I speak to, and people who are genuine and at heart when they're building businesses, is that you always remain a practitioner. You actually walk the talk, because if you don't walk what you're talking about, eventually you will come down. And when you do that, you are worthy of what you're asking. So I think it comes a full circle, is what I understand.
Sometimes when I am coaching a business leader, um, you can call them startup business leaders. I ask some very basic questions like, do you have a GST number?
Yeah.
Okay, what does your invoicing software look like? Or even if you're going to make your invoice manually, show me the design of the invoice. And then um, basically they get into a chicken and egg situation with you. They're like, let me get the business. And then I'm like, if you don't have this, I'm not able to believe that you really have the intention of getting the business. Where
Right.
is the energy that you're putting out to the universe to say that, hey, I'm serious? I
Yeah.
want to get started on this. I remember personally, since you asked me what did your day one look like, I'm now recalling this because I don't think anyone's asked me that question before. I remember spending 4 hours on Excel trying to automate my invoicing.
Oh,
It's been
lovely.
5 years, and the macro that I designed on Excel works even today.
Yeah.
And my team is still raising invoices basis that Excel sheet. I mean, on that Excel sheet even today. I had one client that I billed the first month. And ever since then to now, I pay myself a salary on the first of every month.
Yeah.
Initially, it was a very funny transaction because I would transfer money from my personal account into my current account and then pay back my personal account. So it's like 25,000 went from here to there to here.
Yeah.
Okay, of course, the number looks very different today. I'm thankful to God for that, thankful to all my clients, and proud of the energy that I bring into my work. But I never stopped doing that.
Right.
I did not. There's so many clients who have said that, can we just give you cash? I'm like, no, we will raise an invoice. If you wish to make the payment in cash, that's a different matter. But I will raise an invoice. I will pay my taxes. For me, this is not just a matter of compliance. For me, all of this is energy
100%. Yeah.
because this is the energy that you're putting out. That I
Correct.
mean business.
Yeah. Every action that you put out
Yes.
is energy. And I loved, how you use the word energy, because that is an indication
Yeah.
of how do you want the process to be.
Money,
Yeah.
Manmeet is the biggest energy indicator.
100%. I think 1000%.
How your money gets spent tells you how you earn the money.
Yeah, that's true.
If you're able to, people tell you save for a rainy day, I bet you're going to have a rainy day in your life.
Yeah,
Save for a holiday, you're
you'll
going to
have a
have a lot of
holiday.
fun with that money.
Yeah. I'm going to start doing that. I think that's a very nice way to put it, because, I have been very intentional of what I'm saying. But I think I've never thought it this way, that, save for a holiday and the holiday is going to happen.
Yeah.
Now, that's what I'm going to start repeating starting today. Save for a holiday.
Save for a holiday.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to my husband and say, we are saving for a holiday.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do that.
So, continuing the conversation about your coaching business and how you started on day one, I would now like to dwell into how this practice grew. The first times are always special. Who
Yeah.
was your first client who trusted in you? And if you're comfortable sharing, what was the transaction that happened between you and the client?
Oh, of course. In fact, my first client was this organization from Amsterdam who were setting up a small factory unit um, in the outskirts of Bangalore. And they wanted me to help the team, help the founder devise a sales strategy for India.
Okay.
That was my first client. I got a princely sum of rupees 10,000 as my first consulting fee. And like I said, I opened my account with that, or rather, I opened my account and I got that as my first deposit. Of course, I ran out of 15,000 rupees because I decided to pay myself. I know I speak a lot of numbers,
Yeah.
because for me, you need to quantify what you're doing also.
Correct. That's true.
Yeah. So and I remember driving down to their factory, sitting with the women. They were making these stoves, which were energy efficient stoves, sitting with them, trying to see how the stove worked. They made an entire cooker of tomato rice for me to show me. So they made about 5 kilos of tomato rice to show me how efficient is the stove. So we sat down, we did it. I have pictures of
I feel
that
hungry.
even today, where I sat, where I worked with them, spoke to them, and came. I did that assignment. That assignment continued to be on my books for about a year and a half. After which, different things happened, and that business moved on.
Absolutely. And if I may ask, what does your consultation look like right now?
Right now, it is a lot of coaching leaders in the corporate world, coaching leaders who are second or third generation entrepreneurs. Somehow, I seem to be attracting that. I never intended to do that, but I seem to be attracting that because I now see that businesses, the way that they were run 2 generations back, is exactly how people ran families. Okay, this is how our familial beliefs also have evolved. And the current entrepreneurs, though it is a family business, they want to bring in a lot more of digital expertise,
Correct.
digital interventions. They want to scale up. They want to take the business to they want to give it a different color. And then there is resistance because naturally, why fix something which is not broken is what the previous generation likes to believe, whereas they want to experiment with something new.
Absolutely.
So that becomes like a challenge for them to deal with their own parents who are now also senior at work and who are still calling the shots.
Right.
So that becomes a challenge for many business leaders as I see it. And I'm having the privilege of having conversations with those
So when you
leaders.
say coaching, I would want to understand before I proceed to my next question. Is this, group coaching where people join together and you coach them together? Is it one to one? Is it a recorded program? What is your medium of teaching these people?
I have never done recorded programs.
Okay.
Never. I don't know if I will ever do it, Manmeet. Two kinds. I do one-on-one coaching. So if it is a corporate professional who is on the higher rungs of the ladder in the corporate world, then we engage for about a 6 to 12 month engagement. That's how it happens for me.
Okay, got
And
it.
the sessions are one-to-one, or like I said, for business leaders. Yes, I do group coaching. And I'll tell you how these group coaching scenarios come about. When the corporate or the institution wants their leaders to develop a habit. For example, recently I did this amazing session, and I call it amazing because of the audience participation, for a group of male leaders in a corporate who wanted to understand how to build mental toughness at work,
Oh, okay.
how to safely express emotions.
Hmm.
Now, these are, in fact, it makes me so happy when corporates come with topics such as these because in the world that I came up, all you were taught was to smother,
Yeah.
and never ever to express your vulnerability to your teams. Today, I'm so happy there is that space to be vulnerable with your teams, be authentic in your communication. So, these are the two kinds of interventions that I'm doing right now. What would I love to do? I would love to get back to sales and strategy consulting. Right now, that is not on the cards, or rather, I'm not having opportunities right now, but I'm still trying.
Okay.
The
Understood.
salesperson in me can't give up. So I'm still
Obviously,
trying.
when you do sales once and you love it, you can't, take a look back. It's always, okay, what is going to happen next? Yes. So, as you're talking about the kind of, communication you have and the kind of options people have to work with you when it comes to coaching. Now, I would also want to understand that, what is your process of customer acquisition? Today, in
Hmm.
the, world of digital that we are looking today, there are different models that are working. Somebody is just working on, one funnel where there's one product. Somebody is working on a L1, L2, L3. Different people are using different methods. Somebody is doing a webinar. Different methods, different people, whichever, whatever works for them better. So for you, what is your go-to strategy for acquiring customers or getting business?
So in fact, I teach this, Manmeet. It's
Oh
it's a it's
wow.
a 1 hour course for me, but I go with this acronym called SPACER, SPACER.
Okay.
So it starts with suspect, prospect, advocate, close. Okay, SPAC, and then there is earning, and then there is retention of clients.
Oh wow, that's amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I follow that code.
Hmm.
Now, what are the therefore for suspecting, which means marketing, which means your pull strategy? What do I do? I have, I think, a strong LinkedIn presence. I think I can fairly say that. I can confidently say that now, not fairly. I do a lot of one-on-one interactions with clients, both people I have serviced in the past and prospective customers. The third thing that I do very well is I network well.
Yeah.
I don't socialize. Okay, that's my weakness. I am a prescriptive introvert, Manmeet. I have to recharge only in private.
Right.
But I understand that for me to build my business, it's very different from the way I built my business when I had a brand looming large in front of me. I worked with some very big brands, and therefore, you don't see the need to network as strongly as you do now. Today, Tatwamasi is a name I am fond of.
Yeah.
No one in the room will be able to recall it after I have said it.
Absolutely.
People are going to recall this person who came and spoke. Maybe they won't even remember my name. They will just remember what I said. So then it is imperative that you have to reach out to as many people who can hear your voice. So
Absolutely.
networking is non-negotiable. So these are the things that I do.
Right.
Physical one-on-one networking or group networking, LinkedIn presence, and yeah, I'm also trying to push myself, saying, can I be now present on other social media handles?
Absolutely. I've picked up a lot of things while you were saying, and I've made my notes. I'll go one by one. First, I think I am saying repeatedly that, like you said, I think the wordplay is your strength 100%,
Thank you.
is because the way you emphasized on the fact that I don't socialize, I network. There's a big difference because
Yes.
when you socialize, you're trying to build relationships, friendships, and networking is not building friendships or relationship, because that is where you get personal.
Yes.
Networking is, more business. So I loved how you differentiated the two for the audience to understand that network is where you speak to people who can be a potential customer and not just, attend parties at a different place saying that I'm building a business. So that's very
and
important.
and as you're saying that, I'm sorry to cut your flow, Manmeet, you need to really have a talent to become intimate in your conversations as you're networking.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Socializing, you can still kind of dance around the periphery and get away with it. Not when you're networking. When you're
Correct.
networking, you've got to connect heart to heart.
Absolutely, because when you're networking, there is a skill that a lot of people lack that you need is to listen. Because if you don't
Yes.
listen, you don't land. The person is saying 10 things and you're talking different direction. It doesn't land. They'll move to the, next person. So there's this one, event I attended, some virtual event I was attending, and I learned this concept there. They said that when you are in a room of people, that is not where the networking happens. It happens after
It's when
that.
you're stepping out.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
when you're stepping out, is because that is where you're judging the energy. You spend about 5 minutes with everybody and you understand, okay, who are you vibing with? Is because if you try to network in that event, then you will not be able to touch everyone, because networking takes time. You understand the other person, you get, deeper, you build thought process and see if you're matching or not. So if when you try to do that, if there are maybe 20 people in a room, you can hardly barely touch two or three. So that's not the space where you have to network. You do a 5 minute quick vibe check to understand, okay, does this resonate? Oh, it does. Then you network once you step out. So I think that is what I recalled as we were
Yes, you're
talking.
absolutely right about it.
Yeah. And one of the other things that you mentioned, which I am a huge advocate of, is the fact that personal brands drive business brand. Because as you
Yes.
mentioned,
Yeah.
that people might not remember the name of the organization is 100% true. Is because a lot of people that I work with, my clients, I always tell them that logo is a visual that people can't hold accountable. I have a face, I have a voice, and as you said, Shri, they have a name, they have a face, they have a voice they can hold accountable to. But a business is like a name and logo that they can't hold accountable. And in the world that we are
Unless
today,
unless you become that big a brand,
correct, yeah.
unless you become a Tata,
But that also happens because you
and there
grow
is
your
still a
personal.
name, there's still a face behind even
Right.
that
The
name, even
moment
as
you
we say
said,
it. Yeah.
the moment you said Tata, Ratan Tata ji is what
Yes,
came to my
yes.
mind.
Yeah.
So, and that is also because his name is Ratan Tata. So that's how it is built.
Yeah.
So whenever a brand also grows today, a brand grows because the founder has grown so
Yes.
much
Yes.
that they get that leverage to the business brand. A business would never be able to grow if a person is not growing, because I always believe, you're always in a people business. There's this one question that was asked in a room: what business are you in? So everybody said 100 different types of answers, and at the end it was, all of you are wrong, you're in a people business.
You're
It's
always in the business of building relationships.
correct, that's true,
No
that's true.
matter what you do, even if you're a doctor and you think you're a highly skilled doctor,
Right,
and you know the patient is redeemed because the person comes to you.
right,
If you are not able to interact well with the patient is not going to come back to you.
right, right, that's true.
So you're always in the business of building relationships.
Absolutely.
And which is why I tell founders that you can never say that sales can be outsourced to someone. It's your product. You've got to carry it on your head 24/7.
And the way you understand it, nobody will ever be able to, because your emotions are so
Yes.
heavily invested in that. That's true. I'm so glad that I'm able to resonate with you on so many places, and
Same here.
it feels like a shared vision. I would also want you to share with the audience, if you are comfortable in sharing, the different types of options you have for your clients to work with you. How do the packages look like now? What is the revenue stream that you're able to generate out of the practice that you're doing today?
Revenue stream would be a question that is a little personal, and I may not want to take that out on a public platform. But I would say that it is coaching is an expensive investment, so be prepared for it because it does really change the way um, you feel, look, and believe about life. So
Correct.
it does. It has a very big impact on your actions. So you can only put a price to that impact.
Right.
Um, I work, like I said, with clients who have an understanding about themselves.
Hmm.
So you know yourself, you're willing to share that intimate space with a coach without lying about it, right?
Hmm.
Being very honest and truthful about yourself and having a definite vision
Yeah.
is where working with a coach really helps.
Right.
Why do I say that? I say this with a little bit of a disclaimer because there are many people who come, who sit down in front of you and say that I want change, but I don't exactly know what must change. Now, I'm not saying that a coach can't work with you on that, but the fact is, you are wasting your own time by even refusing to think what you want for yourselves.
Right. Correct.
That may require that you go for some sort of developmental programs, you take up some training programs, develop an understanding on what you really want to do with yourself, and then you come back.
Right. Correct. So it is, selecting your clients, who you want to work with, so that you're able to deliver that value very consciously, is something that
Yes.
you approach your business with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also, like I said, I work with corporate clients who probably want to run small cohorts, with their leaders on understanding their own mental fitness levels, their own emotional fitness, their readiness for change, because as cliched as it is, but true, that change is the constant. And especially we are now walking into a world where you have to make choices in a very, very uncertain world.
Absolutely.
Gone is the case where we had processes, we had architecture. You could really train people on scenarios and how to respond to scenarios. Today, the the level of preparedness that we want in all of our leaders is for them to have the ability to fail, for them to have the ability to be resilient, for them to have the ability to bounce back.
Yeah.
And that is also a big body, a big part of the work that I do.
Right, right, absolutely. As you mentioned, you're able to attract so many people, and you're able to work with so many people. Where you mentioned that you've built a LinkedIn presence, and I would agree to that. You have close to 13,000 followers. I would want to understand what was your strategy, or what went behind building that presence. Did you use content? Did you use your wordplay? What was that went behind building that kind of an audience?
I ask for help.
Oh, nice.
Okay,
Yeah.
I know I can write well. I know my thoughts are creative, but I never for a moment thought I was going to do this alone. I engaged with a social media specialist. I sat down and understood from them how I must write my posts, what kind of posts will work well, what is the timing in which you got to, auto generate your posts. So I went through the technicality of it.
Right.
The essence is always there in you.
Yeah.
It is Tattvam Asi. But you must learn, you must appreciate and be humble enough to know that there are specialists who can do the job better than you. We can't be
Absolutely.
specialists in everything.
Absolutely.
So sometimes when I have to keep a cook for my home, it is not because I can't cook. It is because I need food to be on the table when people are hungry.
100%. I'm so glad you've mentioned that.
Yeah. So, yes, I work with teams. I ask for help. I love what the 20-year-olds have to teach me today. When they kind completely cut off your idea saying this is not going to fly. Well, I
It
feel
hits you
very
for once.
bad. Yeah, I'm like, I let
Okay.
me teach you a thing or two about life, but then I'm like, no, you can't teach them a thing or two about life, because social media is their world.
Right.
You got to listen to them and you got to make amends, and then you will be successful.
Right. I think that naturally translates into your own business as well, as because that is how you would want your clients to treat you. So
Yes.
you're being a practitioner. You're just saying that you know your game. So I'm going to be respectful about that. And
Yeah.
those are the kind of clients people like to work with as well. Is because what I believe is it's always a partnership. You're not someone who's going to be executing for the client and just doing the job or what is needed to be done. You have to put your own brain power into it, because you might know the skill and the expertise, but the business is theirs. Like you said,
Correct.
the essence is there, so it's always a partnership.
Yeah. And Manmeet, one last thing in closing is this. Um, if this was a product centric business, would we not invest in buying the product and stocking, in our
Inventory.
store, in
Yeah.
the inventory? It is the same when it is for businesses which are involved in service. You
Right.
have to invest in social media, you have to invest in a website, you have to invest in brand presence. It's not going to build automatically by itself just because you're very passionate about what you are doing.
Absolutely, that's your inventory.
Yes, that's your inventory.
Right. What is that one message that you'd like to give to all coaches who are listening to the podcast today and who are looking forward to grow their coaching, work with clients, and be true to their essence?
Brutal truth.
Yes, always.
And that is, being a good coach is not going to guarantee that your business will run well. Just like being a good professional in any other area does not guarantee that your business will run well. For your business to run well, you need to have business acumen. Some are born with a flair for it, and if you do not have the flair for it, engage with professionals who can help you develop the business. And that's how you can actually take your gift forward to the world.
Thank you so much, Sri, today for your time. I have absolutely nourished and loved the conversation that we've had and connected on so many levels. So extremely thank you for taking out time, coming all the way to this
Yeah.
location and spending time with us today and sharing your story unapologetically. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Manmeet. It was an absolute pleasure and afternoon well spent for me.
Thank you so much. Thank you. This conversation, like I mentioned in the beginning, was raw, was natural, and was something that came right out of the heart. And if you've enjoyed the conversation so far, share it with someone who may resonate with how you have to be true to your essence. If you like this podcast, subscribe to the channel so that next time there is a guest, you get the notification. If you are a coach who would like to interview or who would like to be on the podcast, get in touch with my team. Until then, keep supporting us so that I can do and get lovely guests like Shri on the podcast. Thank you so much once again for watching.